Hi everyone, welcome to my lesson about superheroes and IELTS, or the Avengers and IELTS. And I know immediately what you're thinking. IELTS is supposed to be boring. I'm very sorry, because I'm doing my best tonight. One night only, one day only. IELTS is going to be interesting because we're going to talk about superheroes and the Avengers. Tonight, I'm going to go through 5 different areas related to superheroes and IELTS. First, we're going to do some vocabulary. Then we'll do some speaking using that vocabulary from IELTS. We'll do listening and reading from IELTS related to superheroes. And finally, we'll finish with a question that I guarantee you'll never see on IELTS about the Avengers. Don't worry, even though you won't see it, it's going to be fun.
First, let's take a look at the noun phrases that I've written related to superheroes or the Avengers and IELTS. So we're going to
start with a battle between good and evil. Every superhero movie is about this. The good guys and the bad guys. And we call it is a battle between good and evil.
He's pure evil.
Ultron against the Avengers. The Joker against Batman. A new danger or threat. So usually these movies, these superhero movies by Marvel, will open up with some kind of new danger or new threat emerging. You know, they're sitting at home, they're having their coffee, having a good time, spending some quality time with their girlfriend or boyfriend, and then all of a sudden an evil robot or an alien starts to attack. And that's a new danger or a new threat. Polar opposites. This is how you would describe 2 characters that are totally different. For example, in the Avengers, Captain America and Iron Man are polar opposites. Iron Man is rich, confident, arrogant, cocky. Captain America is exactly the opposite. He's humble, dignified, patriotic. He doesn't care so much about himself, he cares more about his country, as opposed to Iron Man, who cares about himself. These characters are polar opposites, totally different. And the last one is a quote from Scarlett Johansson that I saw online, where she said that her character, even though she doesn't have any superpowers, the Scarlet Widow, is definitely one of the team. That means she's part of the Avengers. She's not separate or different, even though she's the only girl on the team, I think. And she also has no superpowers. She's definitely one of the team. And I'm sure watching the movie, we're all very happy that Scarlett Johansson is part of the team. Let's move on now and take a look at some verb phrases.
Alright, now let's take a look at some of the verb phrases related to superheroes and the Avengers. The first one.
Save the world from evil. So in these movies, they're always trying to save the world from evil. From Thanos.
To save the world.
You can't save the world.
From the Joker, from some kind of villain. Must come together. Usually, in a movie where there's a team of superheroes, they don't want to work together. Just like in the Justice League or in the Avengers. So they must come together.
Let's come together as a team.
Work together to defeat the evil villain. They also must take on the threat or take on a threat, and that means to fight something dangerous. There's usually a point in the movie towards the end when it looks like the heroes are going to lose or some character is going to die, and then at the last second someone shows up out of nowhere. They just appear and they save someone's life. The Hulk appears and pushes aside the villain and saves Captain America's life. And the whole movie usually leads up to a final battle at the end, a big action scene. Sometimes it can be boring, sometimes it can be exciting, but it always leads up to the final battle, and the heroes always win. Spoiler alert from a few seconds ago, the heroes always win.
Let's do a speaking question now related to superheroes and the Avengers.
I'm going to do a part 2 speaking question. So imagine that the examiner, it's never going to happen, but imagine it's your lucky day and the examiner gives you your cue card and he asks you to talk about a superhero you admire. Your lucky day, you've won the lottery, it's your birthday, you get to talk about a superhero. Now, what should you do? You've got 1 minute to prepare, so you can take notes, or you can just think about it in your head. If you do take notes, don't write down Superman, Batman. That's not what you're going to forget when you start talking. Write down some really good vocab, some really good grammar that you can throw into your example to make it better. Try to use some of the phrases from before. I recommend that right now everyone pause this video, give your own answer, record yourself, write it down, whatever, and then I'm going to give mine and you can compare. Try to use some of the vocab that we just studied. I'll try to use it as well. So I've got my notes here, and I'm going to talk about it, and I'll try to throw in some of those phrases, but don't focus too much on using those phrases, or that's going to make it sound very unnatural. All right, so the superhero that I want to talk about is Batman. And the reason that I admire Batman is because he doesn't have any superpowers. So in the last movie he was in, the Justice League, he has to come together to protect the world. There's a battle between good and evil. A threat has come out and they have to try to fight it together. So he needs Superman's help, he needs Wonder Woman's help, and he has to go get all these other superheroes to work together to fight the evil threat. And again, the reason I admire him is because he has no superpowers. He's just a normal, kind of crazy, angry, violent man, but really amazing because all the other heroes, they're fighting and they're not going to die. They're fine, you know? Even if they lose, they won't die. Just all the people in the world will die. But for Batman, it's different. He could actually die. All the other superheroes, it's like it doesn't really matter. Worst case scenario, the other people die, the whole world dies, but at least they're okay. But Batman, it could actually be him who dies. All right, let me try another one. This time I'm going to talk about a different superhero. All right, this time I want to talk about another superhero from the Marvel movies, and his name is Captain America. Now, I'm an American. That isn't the reason why I like Captain America, but it doesn't hurt. So I like Captain America because, in fact, actually before the last Avengers movie, I didn't like Captain America. He was my least favorite, and that was because he's always on his high horse. He always thinks he's the best, and he's so self-righteous. He thinks he's such a good guy, and I always hate characters like that. I like characters more like the polar opposite, like Tony Stark, Iron Man, guys who are full of themselves and arrogant and fun. But in the last movie, I did feel that the actor who plays him and his character, because he's got so much conviction, he believes what he says so much, that I started to respect his character and really like his character more than the other characters. All right, so now maybe you notice some of that answer I tried to force in the vocab. Sometimes I didn't think about it. It's different for me because I'm a native speaker. I wouldn't need to use notes, and they actually probably hurt me more than help me. But same thing with you. Don't be too fixated on using your notes to make your response good. You make your response good. Don't rely on your notes like they're your superpower. Imagine that you're like Superman, stripped of your superpowers. You're a regular man, no notes. Just try to give your natural response. Practice a lot so that you get good at it, but when you go to the test, I think take notes, okay, maybe that works for you, but don't be so reliant on them that you're going and trying to force in the things that you wrote down on your paper. All right, let's move on and let's do a listening question. So for this listening question, I'm going to read and spell some of the names of the characters and the actors from the movie, and I just want you guys to listen and write them down. This is practice for section 1 of the listening test. In section 1 of IELTS listening, you're going to hear a lot of simple vocabulary, a lot of names, numbers, places. They'll spell them sometimes. It's just testing your ability to listen and write, nothing more. Other parts of the listening test become more difficult. There's hard vocab, there's more challenges. But in the first part, it's just about listening and writing. So very, very simple, very, very easy to practice. Let's do a little bit of practice with actors' names and superhero names. All right, let's start. So first one, Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson. I'm going to have to check my spelling on that later. Let's do another one. Chris Evans. C-H-R-I-S-E-V-A-N-S. If you didn't get it, just rewind and listen again. Do that as many times as you need to. That's how you're going to improve your listening, by listening again and again and doing better each time. Robert Downey Jr., R-O-B-E-R-T, D-O-W-N-E-Y, Jr. J-R. Mark Ruffalo, M-A-R-K-R-U-F-F-A-L-O. Chris Hemsworth, C-H-R-I-S-H-E-M-S-W-O-R-T-H. Josh Brolin, J-O-S-H-B-R-O-L-I-N. Now, do you know who those characters were? I'm going to write the answers on the board, but I also want you guys to think about who is the superhero that those actors play in the movie, The Avengers. Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, and, let me spell that correctly for you, Josh Brolin. The characters that they play, Scarlett Johansson is the Black Widow, Chris Evans is Captain America, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, Mark Ruffalo is the Hulk, and Josh Brolin is the new villain from the movie called Thanos. Let's move on and do a little bit of reading practice. All right, take a look at the question I'm going to put on the screen, and I want you guys to answer, is it true, false, or not given? Last thing I want to do with you is take a look at the writing test and a question you could get about superheroes in the writing. And I thought the most interesting Avengers movie by far was not called The Avengers. It was actually called Captain America Civil War. And it was basically an Avengers movie because it had all the Avengers characters, but it wasn't called an Avengers movie. It was called Captain America, but whatever. Anyway, that was the best movie. And there was an interesting dilemma at the middle of it that really would make an amazing IELTS question. It's never going to be on your test, I think, but it's still an amazing question, so why don't we take a look at it? This was the whole question at the center of Captain America Civil War, and it was a battle. It was a conflict between the two polar opposite characters, Iron Man against Captain America, and they disagreed. Iron Man felt guilty because of some of the things he did led to people dying, so he thought we shouldn't have the freedom to do whatever we want. We should have the United Nations or the governments telling us what we can and can't do to control us, because he didn't want that responsibility anymore because he was afraid something bad would happen again. Captain America was different. He wanted that responsibility because of his experiences during the war. He thought governments could not be trusted. So he thought that they would do a better job, that they would be totally impartial, and they could make their own decisions, and then if governments were making good or bad decisions, they could kind of step in. Now, I agree 100% with Captain America on this one, basically, because I do think that if you're going to have governments do it, there's so many different interests. In the movie, Iron Man seemed to think if governments were in charge, then everything would be fine, that they would never do anything bad, and the governments would just always be perfect. They're not. They're always going to have different people telling them what to do. They're going to have good and bad interests, just like a powerful country like America and the things they do around the world. Now, Captain America, he thinks the heroes aren't going to make a perfect decision every time. They're going to make mistakes. People are going to die because of their mistakes. But I do think that, because they are superheroes and they're perfectly good, that these are the guys that we want in charge. We don't want like Donald Trump or someone like that controlling Captain America and Iron Man, sending them off to just like blast people. You want these really nice people in charge. Now, in the real world, there aren't people that are superheroes or heroes from movies, so it's a little bit unrealistic, but I definitely agree with Captain America, so I would totally disagree with this statement. All right, I'm writing a sample answer for this one, and if you want, you can check that out. You can buy it as part of my packet about superheroes. If you like this video, make sure to like it and subscribe below, and you can also check out our website for some more materials just like this that you can buy.
See you later, alligator.